Some fruit grows too heavy to stay vertically on the vine, and you'll need to assist them if you want to keep them off the ground. Here are 3 ways to help support growing your food vertically. I have a melon growing across the top of my cattle panel arch trellis, and this type of trellis has worked really well. Check out my video on this channel called Garden Trellis Using Cattle Panels to see how I did this. The first type of support I will show today is using a single piece of hose or stocking to make a hammock. If you don't have any of these, then you can get several inexpensive pairs from the dollar store. If that's not an option, then be sure to check out the end of the video for an alternate method. In this example, I'll take a single piece and tie both sides, creating a hammock to support the fruit as it grows. So I'll tie the first side up. Stretch it across and tie the second side. Now simply pull below the fruit and scoop it up. If it's too loose, then tie one side further over to create more tension. Here's another view. Just a simple knot and it stays in place well, and it's easily removed at the end of the season to store and use again next year. If you have smaller or thinner hose, then you may need to do a cross pattern using 2 or 3 pieces. I'll show this later in the video. Here's that same one from earlier, a week or 2 later, and much larger. I'll pause the video here for a second so you can see it better. Here's another season where I have cantaloupe and honeydew using hose and mesh bags for support. And there I have a watermelon growing up the trellis. You can see 2 of the hammocks right there. And there's the cantaloupe using hose and mesh bags, which brings us to our second type of support for growing vertically: inside mesh bags, hose, or stocking. Here's how I do that. I have a cantaloupe here, and I will use the mesh bag that I kept from store-bought fruit and reuse it. So I'll open up the mesh bag, check it out. I'll tie a knot on one end. Scoop it up, move it more towards the center, and then lift it up and tie it off at the next part of the cattle panel. Here it is a week or so later. Here are 2 more where I reuse the mesh bags. You can also use hose or stockings to secure them to the cattle panel. Here are some examples of that. That one is about ready to be secured to the trellis. Using hose or a stocking to keep your fruit on the trellis is just like with the mesh bags. Here I'll take a single stocking and cut it in half and tie one end on both of them. This allows me to make support for 2 cantaloupes from 1 stocking. Take the cantaloupe and place it inside the stocking, then pull it up a little higher and tie the side of the stocking to the cattle panel. This leaves room for the vines so it continues growing well. Here's a closer view, and you can see the vine has plenty of room on the right side. You can also use your fence as a trellis to grow vertically. Here I planted some watermelon and honeydew right along the fence line. Then I used some garden string tied from the top so they could follow the string and grow up vertically. Next, I took a single piece of 16 gauge wire and went around the back rail and used a stocking, scooped it up while it was still small, and tied it off on the wire. Along the same fence, I also planted some watermelon and used garden string so they could grow up vertically. I used 2 pieces of 16 gauge wire about 12 to 14 inches long, and this is the third type of support, the cross method with 2 or more pieces. I'll loop the wire around the back rail on both sides of the watermelon so I can make 2 hammocks that cross and place the watermelon inside. So I'll take the first piece of wire, I'll shape it, and then work it between the pickets and around the back rail and tie it off. Now I'll take the second piece of wire, shape it, work it around the pickets and around the back rail and tie it off. Here's a closer look. Single piece of hose, tie it from one wire to the other. Now I'll take the hose and I'll go under and tie it to the second wire behind the plant. Now I'm going to add a second piece of hose, but I'll go in the front to give it more stability. Now I'll pull the back one down and set the growing fruit in it. Next I'll bring the top one down around the foliage to the front side and secure it. Now I'll tie the cross one the other way, front and back. I'll just use the original garden string that was used to guide the vines vertically. I'll tie it to the string, pull it down, measure it, make sure it's long enough. And then I'll tie it on the other side back underneath. And just like before, I'll bring it over and into place. Now I'm just leveling it out and making it balanced. Here's a look after I'm done. This is 10 days later and it's grown quite a bit. You can also use old t-shirts as an alternative way to make a support hammock, as you can see here. This is about a week later. And about another week shortly before I harvested this one. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and share it, and also leave a comment telling me what you're growing in your garden and what you'd like to see me try next. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe.